The palace walls shook as another missile struck the eastern tower. Crystal fragments rained down like deadly snow, catching the light of fires burning throughout the city below. Captain Han Taesoon ducked behind a marble column as debris scattered across the grand hallway. His comm device crackled with static and desperate voices. "Captain, the evacuation ships are gone. All 3 of them. Shot down before they cleared the atmosphere." Bora's voice was tight with controlled panic. She was his second in command, a soldier who had fought beside him for 7 years. She never panicked. Until now, Taesoon pressed his hand against the comm device. "How many civilians made it out?" "None, sir. The royal family is still inside." Queen Lariva refused to leave without her people, closed his eyes for a moment. This contract was supposed to be simple. Protect the Valthari royal family during their evacuation. Get paid, leave this dying world behind. But nothing was ever simple in war. The Valthari Empire had been falling apart for months. Rebel forces from a dozen conquered worlds had united under one banner led by a general named Vokmar. They called themselves freedom fighters. They called the queen a tyrant. Taesoon didn't care about politics. He cared about finishing the job he was paid to do. He ran through the corridor, his boots crushing broken glass beneath them. The palace had once been beautiful, he supposed. Everything here was made of some kind of crystal that grew naturally on this planet. The walls, the floors, even the furniture. It all glowed with soft blue light. Or it had before the bombs started falling. 2 of his soldiers met him at the intersection. Private Minho, barely 20 years old, and Lieutenant Sora from the Palace Guard. Wait, no. Sora was with the rebels. This was Lieutenant Heian from the Palace Defense Force. The woman looked terrified. "The queen is in the throne room," Hyun said, her voice shaking. "Most of the royal guard is dead. General Vokmar's forces have breached the inner sanctum." Taesung checked his rifle. How many? At least 1,000 soldiers, maybe more. Minho's face went pale. "Sir, we have 42 people left in our unit. We can't hold against those numbers, I know." Taesoon started moving toward the throne room. "Get everyone to the secondary landing pad. Bora should have a shuttle ready in 10 minutes. "Get out of here. What about you?" Minho asked. "I'm going to get the queen." Hyun grabbed his arm. "You'll die. They have the entire western wing. You can't reach her." Taesoon pulled free and kept walking. "I made a promise. I don't break promises." He had broken one once, years ago. Left his team behind during a mission that went bad. Watched from his escape pod as their ship exploded. 7 people died because he chose to save himself. He still saw their faces when he closed his eyes at night. Still heard their voices calling for help over the comm. Never again. He had sworn to himself, never again. The throne room doors were massive things, carved from a single piece of purple crystal. They hung open, one door completely torn off its hinges. Bodies littered the floor. Valthari guards in their silver armor, human mercenaries from other companies. Rebels in their mismatched combat gear. The fighting had been fierce here. Taesung moved carefully through the carnage, his rifle raised. The throne room was vast, with a ceiling that stretched up 50 meters or more. Pillars of crystal held up the roof, each one as thick as a tree trunk. At the far end, on a raised platform, sat the throne itself. Queen Laruva was slumped against it, her breathing shallow and rapid. She was young, maybe 30 in human years, though he didn't know how Valthari aged. Her skin was pale blue, almost white, and her hair fell in silver waves around her shoulders. 3 long blades protruded from her torso, her tips glowing with a sickly green light. Poisoned, she looked up as he approached, her eyes focusing with difficulty. "You're the human captain, Taesung." "Yes, Your Majesty." "You should run. They're coming." Her voice was weak, each word an effort. "They want me dead. They want the key." "What key?" She coughed, and blue blood stained her lips. "The genetic key. In my DNA, it unlocks the Starforge, an ancient weapon that can destroy entire solar systems. My ancestors locked it away. Made sure only royal blood could activate it. The rebels think they can extract the key from my body even after I die. Taesong felt his stomach tighten. Can they? Yes, she closed her eyes. That's why I can't let them take me alive. That's why you need to leave. When they find me dead with the blades still inside, the poison will corrupt my DNA enough that the key becomes useless. But if they capture me breathing, they can extract it cleanly. He heard voices echoing through the corridor outside. Hundreds of them, getting closer. The sound of boots on crystal floors. The rattle of weapons. Taesoon moved to the throne room entrance and looked out. An army of rebels was marching up the grand staircase. At their head was a tall figure in black armor. General Vokmer, the man who had united the rebellion. The man who had sworn to end the royal bloodline. Minho appeared at his elbow, making him jump. I told you to evacuate. I know, sir. But I'm not leaving you here alone. Bora's voice crackled over the cum. Captain, we have the shuttle ready, but you need to move now. We have maybe 5 minutes before rebel fighters lock down this airspace completely. Taesung looked back at the queen dying against her throne, then at the approaching army, then at Minho, who was checking his rifle with steady hands despite the fear in his eyes. He made his choice. Bora, get everyone out. That's an order, sir. I'm staying. We're going to hold this position. There was a long silence. Then Bora's voice came back, quiet and sad. Understood, Captain. It's been an honor serving with you. The honor was mine. Now go. He cut the connection and turned to Minho. Last chance, kid. You can still make that shuttle. Minho smiled, though his hands were shaking. My daughter is 3 years old. I want her to grow up in a galaxy where people keep their promises, where honor means something. I'm staying. Taesong gripped the young man's shoulder. Then let's make this count. They took positions behind the pillars flanking the throne room entrance. The army was at the base of the stairs now. 1,000 soldiers, maybe more, all coming to kill one dying queen. General Vokmar's voice boomed across the distance. Surrender the queen, and we'll let you live, humans. This isn't your fight. Taesong stepped into the doorway where they could see him. He raised his rifle. Come and take her, the general laughed. So be it. Kill them all. The army surged forward like a wave of death, and Taesoon pulled the trigger. The first wave hit like thunder. Taesoon fired in controlled bursts, each shot dropping a rebel soldier. Beside him, Minho was doing the same, his rifle barking steadily. The throne room entrance was narrow enough that only 6 or 7 soldiers could push through at once. It was the only advantage they had. Conserve ammunition, Taesoon shouted over the noise. Make every shot count. Bodies piled up in the doorway. The rebels were brave. He had to give them that. Or maybe just fanatical. They kept coming, even as their comrades fell. Some made it a few steps into the throne room before Taesong or Minho put them down. None made it further than that, but there were so many of them. Taesung's rifle clicked empty. He dropped the magazine, slammed in a fresh one, and kept firing. His shoulder ached from the recoil. Sweat dripped into his eyes. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of burned flesh. A grenade sailed through the entrance, and clattered across the crystal floor. Minho saw it first. Grenade. They dove behind their pillars as the explosion shattered the air. Fragments of crystal sprayed everywhere. Taesoon felt something hot slice across his cheek. He touched it, and his fingers came away bloody. The rebels pushed harder now, using the smoke from the grenade as cover. 3 of them made it halfway across the throne room before Taesung cut them down. One fell so close he could see the rebel's face. Young and scared and determined. Behind him, Queen Laruva coughed wetly. Why are you doing this? I'm already dead. Taesung changed positions, moving to a different pillar to confuse the enemy. Not yet. You're not. This poison is spreading. I have maybe 30 minutes left. An hour at most, then we hold for an hour. She laughed and it turned into another cough. You humans are insane. Yeah, we get that a lot. The attack paused. Taesong used the brake to reload and check his remaining ammunition. 4 magazines left. Minho had 3. Not good. Not good at all, Captain Minho called out. I count at least 12 dead on our side of the entrance. maybe 40 or 50 beyond it. We've barely made a dent. I know. We can't win this. I know that too. Minho was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "My daughter's name is Jisoo. She just turned 3. I have a picture of her in my pocket. If something happens to me, will you make sure Bora gets it? So she can find my family, tell them what happened?" Taesoon looked at the young soldier. "You should have taken the shuttle." "But then I'd have to live with being a coward," Minho smiled. "My daughter deserves better than that." A voice boomed from outside. "Humans, this is your final warning. Surrender now and live. Continue this foolishness and die." Taesong didn't bother answering. He just waited. Queen Lyrva spoke again, her voice weaker now. "The stories about my people, about the Empire being tyrants, they're not all lies. My ancestors did terrible things. Conquered worlds, enslaved populations, but that was centuries ago. For the past 100 years, we've been trying to make it right, giving freedom to our former colonies, sharing technology, building hospitals and schools." "I don't care about politics," Taesoon said. "I know. That's why I'm telling you. Because you should understand what you're dying for." She paused to catch her breath. "The rebels aren't wrong to hate us. But Vokmer doesn't want justice. He wants revenge. If he gets the Starforge, he'll use it. He'll destroy every Velthari world in the galaxy. Billions of innocent people." Taesong thought about that. Billions of lives depending on one dying queen. On 2 human soldiers with barely enough ammunition to last another 10 minutes. "There's another option," Lyrva said quietly. "Kill me now. Destroy my body completely. Without my DNA intact, the key is lost forever." "No. Why not? I'm dead either way." He looked at her. Really looked at her. She was terrified, he realized. Not of dying, but of failing. Of letting her people down one final time. "'Cause giving up is easy," he said. "And I'm tired of taking the easy way." Minho glanced at him with something like understanding in his eyes. The attack resumed with renewed fury. This time, they came with riot shields, trying to push through the entrance in a tight formation. Taesoon aimed for the legs beneath the shields. Minho targeted the gaps between them. Bodies fell, but the shields kept coming. One rebel made it through, firing wildly. His shot went wide, but it was close enough that Taesong felt the heat. He put 3 rounds in the man's chest and moved again. His rifle clicked empty. Last magazine. Running low on ammunition, he told Minho. "Me too. They were going to die here." Both of them knew it. But they kept fighting anyway, because that's what humans did. They fought impossible battles and died for causes that weren't even their own, and somehow convinced themselves it mattered. Maybe it did matter. Maybe that was the point. Another explosion rocked the throne room. Part of the ceiling collapsed, crushing 3 rebels who had made it inside. Taesoon used the distraction to fall back closer to the throne. They couldn't hold the entrance anymore. Time for a new plan. He looked around frantically. There, in the alcoves along the walls, were ceremonial weapons. Ancient crystal swords that probably hadn't been used in centuries. And something else. Small cylinders that looked like they might be grenades or smoke bombs. "Minho, those cylinders. Grab as many as you can." The young soldier ran to the nearest alcove, while Taesong provided covering fire. He came back with an armful of them. "What are these?" Taesoon examined one. There were symbols etched into the surface that he couldn't read. He looked at the queen. "Defense charges," she said. "Old technology. They create an energy barrier for a short time. Maybe 2 or 3 minutes each. How many minutes do we need?" "For what?" "To rig this entire room to explode." Understanding dawned in her eyes. "If you destroy the throne room, you'll bring down the whole central tower. It'll kill everyone inside, including us, including you, and including your body so completely that there won't be anything left to extract DNA from. You would do that? Die in an explosion just to deny them their prize?" Taesong pulled out every explosive charge he had on his belt. Minho did the same. Between them, they had maybe enough to bring down one wall. Not enough to destroy the tower, unless he looked at the pillars holding up the ceiling. The crystal pillars that ran with energy, that glowed with internal light. What if that light was power? What if the whole structure was somehow charged? Those pillars, he said to the Queen. What happens if they break? The energy released would be catastrophic. The whole tower would collapse in a chain reaction. Perfect. He and Minho started placing charges at the base of the 4 main pillars. The rebels were pushing into the room now, a steady stream of them. Tae-soon activated one of the defense charges. A shimmering blue wall sprang up across the throne room, cutting them off from the enemy. Bullets sparked against it harmlessly. 2 minutes, the Queen said. They worked faster. Tae-sung's hands were shaking from exhaustion and blood loss. His cheek burned where the shrapnel had cut him. His ears rang from the constant gunfire. Minho finished his pillar and moved to help with the next one. Sir, even if we bring down the tower, what's to stop them from searching the rubble? Nothing. That's why we're going to make sure there's no rubble. We're going to overload these pillars so completely that the explosion vaporizes everything. Is that even possible? I have no idea. But we're going to try. The barrier flickered. They had maybe 30 seconds left. Tae-sung set the last charge and armed the detonator. He looked at Minho. You know what this means? Yeah. The young man pulled out his picture of his daughter and looked at it one last time. Then he tucked it carefully into his jacket pocket. Make sure this gets to her somehow. Let her know her father died trying to save billions of lives. I will. The barrier failed. Rebels poured into the room. Tae-soon raised his rifle and smiled. Let's buy some time. They fought like demons. Tae-soon had fought in 17 battles across 9 different worlds, and he had never seen anyone fight the way Minho fought in those final minutes. The young soldier moved between pillars like a ghost, his rifle barking steadily. Every shot counted. Every shot mattered. But there were too many enemies. Always too many. A rebel got close enough to swing at Tae-sung with a blade. He blocked with his rifle, but the impact sent him stumbling backward. Another rebel rushed in from the side. Tae-soon kicked him in the chest, hard enough to crack ribs, and put a bullet in the next attacker. His rifle clicked empty. He threw it at an approaching soldier and drew his sidearm. 9 shots left. He made them count, Minho screamed. Tae-sung spun and saw the young man on the ground, a spear through his leg. 3 rebels were closing in on him. Tae-sung ran, firing as he moved. He dropped 2 of them. The third he tackled bodily, driving them both to the crystal floor. They grappled for a moment before Tae-soon got his knife free and ended it. He pulled Minho behind a fallen pillar. The wound was bad. The spear had gone clean through the thigh, missing the artery but destroying muscle. The young man's face was gray with pain and blood loss. I can't walk, Minho gasped. I know. Stay here. Keep pressure on that wound. Sir, there's something you need to know. Minho grabbed his arm with surprising strength. In my jacket? Left pocket. There's a vial. Velthari combat stimulant. The Queen's Guard gave it to me yesterday. Said 1 dose would let a human fight for hours beyond normal limits. What's the catch? It'll kill you. Burns out your whole system. But you'll have maybe 2-3 hours of peak performance before you drop dead. Tae-sung found the vial. It was small, made of the same crystal as everything else on this world. The liquid inside glowed faintly blue. Why didn't you use it? Minho smiled weakly. I wanted to see my daughter again, even if it was just in my dreams when I die. The stimulant doesn't let you dream. It doesn't let you do anything but fight. More rebels were flooding into the throne room. Dozens of them. Soon, it would be hundreds. Tae-sung looked at the detonator in his other hand, at the charges set on the pillars, at the dying queen behind them, at Minho, bleeding out on the floor. He pulled the cap off the vial and drank it in one swallow. The effect was immediate. Fire raced through his veins, burning away exhaustion and pain and doubt. His vision sharpened. His muscles coiled with sudden strength. He felt like he could run a marathon and fight an army and tear down mountains with his bare hands. He probably could. For the next few hours, and then he would die. Bye, Minho. It was an honor fighting beside you. The honor was mine, Captain. The young man was fading fast. Remember my daughter. Remember Jisoo. I will. I promise. Taesung stood and walked toward the advancing rebels, not running, not hiding. Just walking, calm and steady. Day. His sidearm in one hand and his knife in the other. The first rebel to reach him died, before he even understood what was happening. Taesung moved faster than human reflexes should allow. The stimulant had turned him into something more than human. Something terrible and beautiful and doomed. He cut through them like they weren't even there. The knife found throats and hearts with perfect precision. His gun never missed. When both weapons were empty, he took a rifle from a dead rebel and kept fighting. When that ran dry, he took another. The rebels started to fall back. Frightened by this human who wouldn't stop, wouldn't slow, wouldn't die no matter how many times they shot him. He had been hit at least 6 times that he could count. His armor had stopped most of it, but he was bleeding from a dozen places. It didn't matter. The stimulant wouldn't let him feel pain. General Vokmer appeared at the throne room entrance, his black armor standing out among the rebels. He watched Taesung cut down 3 more soldiers and shook his head. Impressive, but futile. The general raised his hand, gassed the room. Kill everything inside. Tazun heard the hiss of canisters being opened, saw the yellow-green smoke starting to pour through the entrance. Poison gas. The kind that would eat through lungs and melt flesh from bones. He looked back at Queen Lyrava. She had slumped sideways, barely conscious. The poison from the blades was almost finished with her. Behind a pillar, Minho had stopped moving. Taesun ran to the queen. Her royal armor was designed to be ceremonial, but like everything Velthari, it was also functional. It had atmospheric seals. It would protect her from the gas. "What are you doing?" she whispered as he began stripping the armor off her. "Saving your life. But the gas will kill you." "I'm already dead." "I drank the stimulant." He got the chest plate off and fastened it around his own torso. The atmosphere seals activated with a soft hum. The armor was too small for him, but it would work well enough to keep the gas out of his lungs. For a little while at least. Then he took his own small respirator, the emergency one every soldier carried, and placed it over the queen's mouth and nose. "This will keep you breathing for maybe 10 minutes. After that, you're on your own." "Why?" Her eyes were full of tears. "Why would you do this?" "Because someone has to." He checked the detonator. "Still armed? Still ready? And because I've spent too many years running away from the hard choices." "Not this time." The gas was thick in the room now. He could see it creeping across the floor like a living thing. Through the armor seals, he was safe. But his hands and arms and legs were exposed. He felt the gas start to burn his skin. He walked toward the entrance where General Vokmer stood watching. The rebels parted before him, terrified of this human who fought through poison gas and bullets and impossible odds. "You can't win," VOCMR said. "Even if you kill me, there are thousands more. The rebellion will not stop." "I don't need to stop the rebellion." Taesun raised the detonator. "I just need to stop you from getting the weapon." Understanding dawned in the general's eyes. "You've rigged the throne room to explode. Better, I've rigged it to collapse the entire tower. When these pillars go, they'll release enough energy to vaporize everything within 100 meters. The queen's body. Your soldiers, you, me, all of it, turned to ash. You're bluffing." "Am I?" Taesung smiled. "Want to find out?" Vokmer hesitated. For just a moment, he hesitated. That was all Taesun needed. He threw himself at the general, tackling him backward through the entrance. They crashed into a group of rebels, sending them sprawling. Taesung fought with everything he had left, fueled by the stimulant and desperation and the knowledge that none of it would matter in a few more minutes. He could feel his body starting to break down. The stimulant was powerful, but it was also destroying him from the inside. His vision kept blurring. His hands were shaking. Blood leaked from his nose and ears, but he kept fighting. Vokmer was strong, stronger than any normal soldier. He threw Taesun off and drew his own blade. They fought in the corridor outside the throne room, surrounded by rebels who were too shocked to intervene. The blade caught Taesung across the ribs. He felt something break inside him. He drove his knife toward Vokmer's throat, but the general blocked it. They were evenly matched. Both dying. Both determined inside the throne room, through the yellow-green haze of gas. Taesung could see Queen Lariva trying to crawl toward the exit. She was going to make it. Maybe if he could give her just a little more time? He looked at the detonator still, clutched in his left hand. Then he looked at Vokmer. "See you in hell?" "General?" He pressed the button. The world exploded into light and sound and pain. The crystal pillars shattered all at once, releasing centuries of stored energy in a single catastrophic moment. The throne room ceiling collapsed. The walls blew outward. The floor dropped away into nothing. Taesung felt himself flying backward, propelled by the blast wave. He saw Vokmer's expression of shock and fury, saw the rebels being thrown like dolls, saw the entire central tower of the palace beginning to collapse in on itself. Then everything went dark, and he knew nothing at all. Queen Lariva woke to darkness and pain. Every breath felt like knives in her chest. The poison from the blades was still working through her system, shutting down her organs one by one. She should be dead. She wanted to be dead. Death would be easier than this agony. But she was alive. Somehow, impossibly, she was alive. Memory came back in fragments. The human captain? The explosion? The tower collapsing around her. She tried to move and immediately regretted it. Her legs were pinned under rubble. She could feel crystal shards embedded in her back. Blood, her own blue blood, pooled beneath her. A light appeared in the darkness. A small, emergency lamp, the kind soldiers carried. It illuminated a face she didn't recognize at first. A rebel soldier, young, with dark hair and frightened eyes. "Don't move, Your Majesty," the soldier said. "I'm going to get you out." Lariva stared. "You're one of them. One of Vokmer's rebels." "My name is Sarah, Lieutenant Sarah." The woman started carefully moving debris off the queen's legs. "I watched that human fight. Watched him drink poison and walk through gas and throw himself at an army just to buy you time. I've been part of this rebellion for 3 years, fought in a dozen battles, killed people I thought were monsters." She paused, meeting the queen's eyes. "But I've never seen anything like what he did. He was willing to die for you, someone from a species that isn't even his own. Someone he barely knew. Where is he?" Sora's face went sad. "I don't know." The explosion brought down the whole tower. Hundreds of our soldiers died. General Vokmer is missing, probably buried under tons of rubble. And the human, your captain, he was at the center of the blast. Nobody could survive that. She finally freed Lariva's legs and helped her sit up. The queen gasped at the pain but forced herself to stay conscious. The respirator Taesung had given her was still functioning, feeding her oxygen. It was the only reason she was breathing at all. "Why are you helping me?" Lariva asked. "Because I think we've been lied to. My grandmother used to tell me stories about the old days when the Empire first conquered our world. She said most of the Velthari were cruel, but there was one governor who was different, who built schools and hospitals instead of prisons, who gave our people freedom to practice our own culture. I thought those were just stories old people told to make themselves feel better about being conquered." Sora helped the queen stand on shaky legs. "But watching that human sacrifice everything, I started thinking, what if my grandmother was right? What if not all Velthari were monsters? What if we're killing the wrong people?" They started moving through the ruins, Sora supporting most of the queen's weight. Everywhere Lariva looked, she saw death. Rebel soldiers crushed under fallen crystal. Parts of the palace she had known her whole life reduced to unrecognizable debris. "The rebellion won't stop," Lariva said. "Even with Vokmer gone, there are too many who believe your cause is just. Maybe it was once, but not anymore. Not like this." Sora guided them toward what looked like a collapsed wall. "There are evacuation tunnels under the palace. Old escape routes your ancestors built. If we can reach them, I can get you to the spaceport." And then what? My empire is gone. My guards are dead. I have no ships, no army, nothing. Then you rebuild. But you rebuild it right this time. No more conquest. No more slaves. Just people working together. They found an opening in the rubble and squeezed through. Behind the collapsed wall was a staircase leading down into darkness. Sora's lamp barely penetrated the gloom, but they descended carefully, one step at a time. Larova's strength was fading. The poison was winning. She stumbled, and Sora caught her. "We need to get that poison out of you," Sora said. "Is there a medical facility in these tunnels?" "No, but there's an old laboratory. 3rd level down. They might have something that can help." They kept moving. The tunnels were ancient, carved from the bedrock beneath the palace. The walls were plain stone, not crystal, and they didn't glow. It was cold down here, dark, lonely. "Tell me about the human," Larova said, partly to stay conscious and partly because she needed to know. "Did you see what happened to him after the explosion?" "I saw him tackle General Vokmer. Saw them both disappear into the blast. Then the floor gave way and I had to run or die myself." Sora's voice was quiet. "But I think he knew. Knew he was going to die? He did it anyway. Humans are strange creatures, as strange and terrifying and wonderful." They reached the 3rd level and found the laboratory. It was old but functional, powered by emergency generators that had kicked in when the main systems failed. Sora helped Lariva to an examination table while she searched through cabinets. "What am I looking for?" Sora asked. "A blue vial. Antitoxin, should neutralize most poisons." Sora found it after a few minutes of searching. She helped the Queen drink it, then used the laboratory equipment to remove the 3 blades still embedded in her torso. Each one came out with a wet, horrible sound. Lariva screamed and nearly passed out. "You're going to make it," Sora said firmly. "The antitoxin is working. I can see your color getting better already." It was true. Liorva could feel the poison's grip loosening. Her breathing came easier. The pain was still immense, but it was manageable now. A sound echoed through the tunnels. "Footsteps, many of them. You need to move," Sora said. "The rebels are searching the ruins. If they find us, they'll kill us both. You for being the queen, and me for being a traitor." They fled deeper into the tunnel system. Behind them, the footsteps grew louder, closer. Voices called out in the darkness, searching, hunting. Laruva's legs gave out. She collapsed against the tunnel wall, unable to go any further. "Leave me. Save yourself." "No." Sora pulled her back to her feet. "That human didn't die so I could abandon you in a tunnel. We're both getting out of this alive, or neither of us is." They rounded a corner and found their path blocked. A cave-in had sealed the tunnel. Rubble from floor to ceiling, no way through, and behind them, footsteps were getting closer. Sora set the Queen down gently and checked her weapon. "I have maybe 20 shots left. It won't be enough. And this is where we die," Larova said. A sound came from the rubble. A scraping, grinding noise. Something was moving in there, pushing through the debris. Sora raised her weapon, ready to fire. A hand burst through the rubble. A human hand, bloody and broken, but still moving. Then an arm. A shoulder. A head emerged from the stones, covered in dust and blood. Captain Han, Taesoon, pulled himself out of the cave-in and collapsed onto the tunnel floor. He was barely recognizable. His armor was shredded. His skin was burned and cut in 100 places. One eye was swollen shut, but he was breathing. Against all logic and reason, he was still alive. He looked up at them with his one good eye and smiled weakly.
"Your Majesty."
"I told you I'd protect you." Then he passed out. Larava stared in disbelief. How's he alive?" Sora was already kneeling beside him, checking his pulse. Barely. His heart is failing. Whatever that stimulant was, it's killing him from the inside. The footsteps behind them were very close now. Voices echoed through the tunnel. So, made a decision. She hauled Taesing onto her shoulders despite his size and started moving. "Come on, Your Majesty. We're not dying in this tunnel. None of us are." Lariva found strength she didn't know she had and pushed herself to her feet. Together, the The three of them disappeared into the darkness, leaving the pursuing rebels behind. 6 months later, the galaxy was a different place. The rebellion had collapsed within days of General Vokmer's death. Without his leadership and charisma, the coalition of rebel worlds fell apart into infighting and disagreement. Some wanted to continue the fight. Others wanted peace. Most were just tired of war. Queen Lariva, or just Lyra as she now insisted on being called, stood on a balcony overlooking the new capital city. It wasn't on her homeworld. That planet was still recovering from the battle that had destroyed the palace. Instead, the new government had been established on a neutral world, one that had never been part of the Empire or the Rebellion. The city below was a mix of architectural styles from a dozen different species. Velthari crystal towers stood next to human steel structures and the organic buildings preferred by the insectoid creche. It was chaos. It was beautiful. It was the future she was trying to build. Should be resting, a voice said behind her. Sora stepped onto the balcony, carrying 2 cups of tea. The doctor said you need at least another month before you're fully healed. I've rested enough. Lyra took one of the cups gratefully. Besides, the council meeting is in an hour. I need to be ready. You abolished the monarchy 3 months ago. You're not queen anymore. You don't have to attend every single meeting. I know, but I want to. Lyra sipped her tea. It was a human blend, bitter and strong. She had developed a taste for it. How many representatives are we expecting? 43 worlds have sent delegates, including 7 that were part of the rebellion. Sora smiled. They're calling it the Galactic Council. Very original. It's a start. Lyra looked out at the city. Have you heard from Bora? She's on her way. Should arrive this afternoon with the rest of the Iron Phoenix survivors. Lyra's hands tightened on her cup. And Tasong? Sora's expression went sad. He's with them. But Lyra, you need to prepare yourself. The doctors did everything they could, but that stimulant destroyed his body. He survived, but he'll never fight again. Never be the soldier he was. I know. I just want to see him. Thank him properly. They stood in silence for a while, drinking their tea and watching the city wake up below them. Construction crews were already at work on new buildings. Markets were opening. Children from 3 different species played together in a park, their laughter carrying on the morning breeze. Do you ever regret it? Sora asked. Giving up the crown? Your ancestors ruled for 1,000 years. Every day, Lyra admitted. But then I remember what Tayson said. About making the hard choices. About not running away. She smiled. Besides, I make a terrible queen. I'm much better as just another voice on the council. A chime sounded from inside. That'll be Bora, Sora said. I'll bring them up. Lyra waited on the balcony, her heart beating faster. She had seen Taesong once since the battle, 3 months ago when he finally woke from his coma. He had been so weak then, barely able to speak. The stimulant had burned through his muscles and organs like acid. The doctors had to rebuild him from the inside out. The door opened and Bora walked out, still in her military uniform. Behind her came 2 other soldiers from the Iron Phoenix Battalion. And then, moving slowly with a cane, came Taesoon. He looked different. Thinner, older. His hair had gone gray at the temples. He moved carefully, like every step caused pain. But his eyes were the same, sharp and aware and kind. Captain Lyra said, then corrected herself. Taesoon, he smiled. Your Majesty, or should I say Counselor Lyra? Just Lyra is fine. They stood awkwardly for a moment. There was so much to say, so many words between them, and none of them seemed adequate. You destroyed the Starforge, Taesoon said finally. I heard about that. Good choice. It seemed like the right thing to do. That much power, it corrupts. Better that it never exists. She gestured to the chairs arranged on the balcony. Please, sit. You've come a long way. They all sat. Bora poured more tea while Sora brought out plates of food, both human and Velthari. Delicacies. I wanted to offer you a position, Lyra said. Chief Military Advisor to the Council. Help us build a peacekeeping force that protects people instead of conquering them. Taesoon shook his head. I appreciate it, but no. I'm done with politics, then what will you do? He looked out at the city, at the children playing in the park. I want to teach. Train the next generation of peacekeepers. Show them that strength isn't about how many enemies you can kill. It's about knowing when to fight and when to protect and when to sacrifice. Bora spoke up. We've already had requests from 12 different academies. Apparently, the human who held off 1,000 rebels and destroyed a palace is something of a legend now. I didn't do it for glory, Taesong said quietly. I know, Lyra said. You did it because it was right. Because someone had to. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small case. Inside were military dog tags, the kind human soldiers wore. These belonged to Private Minho. We found his body in the ruins. He died protecting me, just like you almost did. Taesong took the tags with shaking hands. Tears welled in his eyes. He had a daughter, Lyra continued. Jisoo, she's 6 years old now. After Minho died, we found his family. His wife had passed away years ago. Jisoo was living with relatives who didn't want her. She paused. I've taken her in. She lives here, in the capital, under my care. She's receiving the best education we can provide. I'd like to meet her, Taesoon said, if that's all right. She'd like that. She knows what her father did. Knows he was a hero. Small figure appeared in the doorway. A human girl with dark hair and bright eyes, wearing a school uniform. She saw the adults on the balcony and hesitated. Come here, Jisoo, Lyra said gently. There's someone I want you to meet. The girl walked over shyly. She looked at Taesong with curiosity and a little bit of awe. This is Captain Han Taesong, Lyra said. He fought beside your father. He's the one who promised to remember you. Jisoo studied him for a long moment. Then she bowed, the way human children were taught to show respect. Thank you for fighting with my father, and for keeping your promise. Taesong couldn't speak. He just nodded, tears running down his face. The girl surprised everyone by stepping forward and hugging him. Lyra told me what you did. How you saved her even though you didn't have to. How you didn't run away? She pulled back and looked at him seriously. When I grow up, I want to be like you and my father. I want to protect people. Galaxy doesn't need more soldiers, Taesung said softly. It needs more protectors. More people who understand the difference and teach me the difference. He smiled. I will. I promise. Later, after Jisoo had gone back to her lessons and the others had left to prepare for the council meeting, Lyra and Taesoon sat alone on the balcony. Do you regret it? Lyra asked. Everything you gave up? Your health, your strength, your future as a soldier? Taesoon watched the sun set over the city, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. I used to have nightmares. About a mission that went wrong years ago. People I left behind to save myself. I'd wake up hearing their voices, begging for help I never gave. He looked at her. I haven't had those nightmares since the battle. Now when I close my eyes, I see Minho's face. I see you getting out of that tunnel alive. I see Jisoo, safe and happy and learning to be strong. So no regrets. Not a single one. He stood slowly, leaning on his cane. I need to go. I have a meeting with one of those academies tomorrow. They want me to teach a course on tactical ethics. Before you go, I have something for you. Lyra pulled out a small medal, a circle of crystal etched with symbols of honor. The council voted unanimously. You're being awarded the Star of Sacrifice, the highest honor we can give. The ceremony is next week. I don't want medals. I know. Accept it anyway. Not for yourself, but for what it represents. So that every young soldier and peacekeeper who sees it